Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Butterfly Effect podcast. Today we are reflecting on lost records and we are asking, did the two-tape system work? Should it have been a full game? Should it have been episodic? That's what me and Liam are going to talk about right now. So obviously we finished Lost Records, mate. Where do you stand on this? Like, did you mind the two-tape system in the end, or was it problematic for you?
There's some police where you are, mate. Hopefully they don't get you. Hopefully we can finish the recording by the time you're arrested. I think it worked personally. Whether I prefer 5 episodes, maybe, but I think for what Lost Records was, I think it needed to be 2 tapes. Now, before going in and finishing it, I honestly thought it was just going to be an absolute mirror and tribute to Stephen King's It, where we were going to have, like, tape 1 was the past timeline and tape 2 was the future timeline. I was really pleasantly surprised when we went into tape 1 and it jumped back and forth. I think that worked quite well. It kept things very fresh. But I think it needed to be 2 tapes. A, because, I mean, it's shorter and sweeter, and the whole process was done in, 2 months? I think it would have been a ball ache if we were waiting for the entire year, like we kind of did with Life is Strange 1. I know double exposure shortened it a lot, but I think the 2-tape system format worked, because especially if you was to just take Lost Records, like the whole storyboard, if you was to break that down into 5 episodes, I don't think it would have worked personally. And I think the telling thing is that we mentioned in our tape 1 analysis, right, that there was an issue with pacing. And I think one of the fundamental flaws of Lost Records is that tape 1 takes a while to get going, right? Like, nothing really significant really happens until Kat starts turning slightly dark, and then you get to the abyss, right? Now, if you was to split that across 5 episodes, realistically, you're probably looking at quite a tame episode 1 and 2, I feel like. So I generally think if you was to break it down into 5 episodes, and if they was to release every bi-weekly or monthly, I feel like a lot of fans would have fell off by the time they got to tape 3, where there was more meat on the bones. So yeah, I think for what Lost Records was, I think it needed to be 2 tapes.
You know what, I've never considered the fact with the whole Stephen King It thing, but you are right, and they do draw so many parallels with that in this game that actually it feels quite natural for it to be split into 2. But you know what, if you asked me this at the end of tape 1, I probably would have said no, this needed to be episodic, because literally what you mentioned of the pacing issue. And I was thinking to myself, if tape 2 is going to be similar, I just found, with the pacing, with how it was quite slow in the build-up, I was like, having little intervals just to be able to drop out after a couple of hours would have been really handy to me. But having now played tape 2, where it was far more punchy, to be honest, far more exciting, and it just had a lot more going for it, I'm now sat there thinking, you know what, I do actually think the 2-tape thing worked, because you are exactly right, that it takes so long to get going that a lot of people would have dropped off like midway through the game. It felt like it was the final maybe half an hour to 45 minutes when the abyss came into it. So if you're looking at that across a 14-hour game, then you're pretty much saying, well, yeah, you're looking at maybe hour 7 before things start to get going, and people are already, even with the 2-tape system, are going, oh look, this is too boring, I'm not going to play tape 2. So to have it episodically would probably emphasise that issue. But it's an interesting argument, because I think universally everybody has said that tape 2 is a lot better. So I do think if this is to be an anthology, and DontNod have the funding to carry on with this, it is sort of noteworthy of them to think, maybe going into the next game, that in terms of their storytelling there's more peaks and troughs, because tape 2 did so much better in that aspect, whereas tape 1, it took so long to get going that's why I felt naturally perhaps more intervals or more cliffhanger moments needed to really happen in that tape 1 in order for it to keep you, hooked as a player.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I do think it's just very true. I think people would have fell off if it was episodic around the episode 2 mark, because like they would have probably had to have changed the complete writing if they went for that episodic structure. They obviously kept it. Tape 1 was quite a tame thing where we're building characters and we're going to leave it on this big cliffhanger, and episode 2 was where like the action and the foire of it really came into it. So yeah, no, I completely agree. And the other reason I would argue that I am glad they went for the Tape 2 system, not only because it kind of really tributes the whole Stephen King, which like the game had so many parallels and Easter eggs with, but I think it's just important that DontNod can show that they can do different structures and they can do different things, that they're not a one-trick pony. I think if they went for the 5 episodes, like this game, it's going to get compared to Life is Strange whether we like it or not, because it is by DontNod. But I think that the fact it's a 2-tape system and not a 5-episode system really makes Lost Records stand out. I feel if they was to go for 5 episodes, we would be comparing them even more, because like you could compare, 5 episodes of Life is Strange against 5 episodes of Lost Records. But being 2 tapes, it really kept the game fresh. It was different. And also, I just go back to the whole timeline reference. Tape 1 came out in February, Tape 2 came out, this week. I'll be completely transparent. This recording is happening before we've recorded our analysis. The game is still fresh. People are still forming their opinions of the game as a whole because Tape 2 has just come out. But as we mentioned, I think Tape 1 had a lot of kind of like suspicions. Oh, I don't think this game's great. And, justifiably so, I feel like. But I feel after Tape 2 has come out, I feel there are a lot of more rave reviews from what I'm seeing. And I don't think that might not have landed the same way if it was 5 episodes. So I think DontNod called it brilliantly. Because, 2 tapes, it's different, it's fresh, and it's given Lost Records its own identity.
Yeah, I think another final reason as well why I think it works as 2 tapes. I mean, Tape 1 is literally called Bloom, is it? And second one is Rage, which, whether it's a metaphorical or literal level, Tape 1, if you're talking about Bloom, it's very much the start of the relationship, the start of the story, the characters getting to know one another. Whether we have issues with the pacing, that's by the by. It is essentially the blooming of their relationship, right? You go into Tape 2, it's more about Rage. There's the focus on Kat and her anger, probably at her, illness and the predicament she's in, especially at Corey as well and how he treats her sister. So like on a metaphorical level as well, it just like there's a nice symmetry between how they've set up the game and how it's structured with with the story interweaving with that as well.
Yeah, no, I never thought of it that way. And yeah, no, you're so right. Tape 1 was very much about it blooming, forming the friendships. And episode 2 was about Rage. Like, we burnt down a whole fucking ranch, for God's sake, So like, it totally makes sense. So that you put it that way, yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you. I do feel like the flaw of having the Tape 2 is that one tape was considerably bigger than the other tape. And I do think there was a lot of fat that could have been trimmed from Tape 1. But regardless, I am glad they went for that format.
I do as well. I'll probably park this for another video, but I do think that where Tape 2 was considerably shorter, I'm sort of wondering whether there was a lot of content taken out of Tape 2. Not necessarily in reflection to what people's views were of Tape 1, but maybe whether it was a funding issue or something that just prevented them, because there's lots of unanswered things in Lost Records, but we'll go into them in our analysis. But yeah, I do think, coming back to the video, I do think overall that I think that the 2-tape structure actually worked in the end.
I agree.
Okay guys, there we go. So that's our take on the 2-tape system versus the episodic that you might see in Life is Strange. What did you think? Did you think there need to be more regular intervals in this game? Or in the end, did the 2-tape system work for you? Let us know in the comments below. And keep an eye out for more Lost Records videos. We've got our analysis coming up if it's not out already. and we're going to have lots of discussion videos, quizzes, all that good stuff in the pipeline as well. Have you got anything else to add, lad?
Nah, just honestly go through our channel, guys. We have so many Lost Records videos. If you enjoy Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, stick around because we have so many videos that are going to come around the corner and you guys are going to be absolutely spoiled.
Good stuff. Thanks for joining, guys, and see you in hell.
See you in hell.